wanted to take a moment. It's morning, and I'm just kind of looking around, seeing how everything's starting to bloom and grow and take off. And I started to think of something I hit on in a previous video. You look around and you see the process of potential magic everywhere around you. Problem is, everybody gets stuck on D&D version where you roll the dice and wham, something happens. That's not how magic works. It's a process. It takes time. And a lot of that process is done by things that aren't properly considered the mage. If you think about it, the mage utilizes and manipulates energy around them. Technically speaking, you can think of just about any profession in the same light. It doesn't matter what it is. Welding, construction, economics. It doesn't really matter. Things need to be put in place. There's a process. If you start a business, it rarely, if ever, becomes an instant success overnight. There's other things that happen and other connections that are made. If you go and you put that into terms that are more blanket, things that encompass both metaphysical and scientific, you start to recognize that there's a pattern that we've essentially been trained and taught to ignore. This isn't a theory. So you can try to say it's a conspiracy theory all you want. If you open your eyes, you'll see that it's a conspiracy and not a theory. Our government has a vested interest in keeping people from recognizing their own freedom and power. Why is that? Because if nobody recognizes a need for them, they don't exist. If everybody around is already doing the job that the government's supposed to be doing, what happens to the government? It vanishes. There's no need. There's no demand. And so the government's been using magic on the people, and there's a lot of science involved in their magic. It's a problem of how we define these different words. When somebody says magic, you instantly think fairies and dragons and unicorns. Yay, let's fart rainbows. No. Magic is getting into all the different processes of a thing, to understand things on a level so deep that you feel it yourself somehow. It's hard to explain. It sounds like complete gibberish bullshit, but anybody who's had the experience knows different. You can choose to believe I've had the experience or not. I'm not even going to go into detail with all that here. Another connecting line that I have to bring in here is dimensions. Let's start with the quantum field. Everyone has a quantum field. It's a principle of nature. It's as present as the electromagnetic field. It's as present as anything else. So once you take that into consideration, you recognize that there's not only a scientific principle for magic, there's a scientific demand for magic. Schrodinger's cat. Magic. No, that's science. It's magic. A rose by any other name is still a rose. Once you start recognizing the reality of the things instead of the definitions we've given them, you start to recognize really quick where the conspiracy is, where your power is, and the mechanics and what magic actually is. Pick up a hammer. Still magic. You can choose to destroy or create with it. Is magic evil? That depends on what you do with it. Are guns evil? That depends on what you do with it, doesn't it? Responsibility, key principle, magic, power. You cannot have power without taking responsibility. If you do, you turn out like Trump. Looks really good, doesn't it? Let's see what happens once he passes to the next life. There will be one for everyone. It may not be this plane of existence. It may not even be this planet. Dimension have a completely different line of the law of physics and everything. We live in a multidimensional universe that seems to contradict itself. Makes complete sense when you say fractal universe. There's no really definitions. Yeah, that made sense. There's really no definitions. I see you understand me? Okay. Everything is defined by its presence. Everything is defined by its being. Words echo the reality. They don't paint a true picture of reality because words come from within the creation, if you get what I'm saying. To put that into a computer analogy, the computer program can only work with the rules it is given. It is given those rules for specific reasons. So, we're in the same kind of situation. Are we in a simulation? Absolutely. Most people don't realize it, not because they can't necessarily, but because they're struggling with their own mentality to reconcile that. It's a real mind trip. Once you start recognizing that you are already living multiple lives at the same time through your own quantum field, Now you start to tap into what people talk about with the Akashic records. This would be essentially your branch of the Akashic records. This is everything that's you. Everything that you have been able to connect to. Some people will be able to actually look at an ant or a blade of grass and feel the life of that blade of grass or that ant. They'll be able to experience it somehow in some way to some degree. Is it always going to be accurate to what you see? Absolutely not, because you're experiencing it through other dimensions. So now when you're sitting there watching the ant go a specific way, when you're experiencing it, you have created a different dimension where the ant is doing something more along the lines of what would happen if you were the ant. Do you want to follow that in physical reality? Now you're going to be in a completely different world where that one thing is part of that world. And now you've got the butterfly effect. That can be anything from complete destruction to a complete peace, because we're definitely not at peace right now. We haven't been for a very, very long time. And I'm talking about thousands of years, not just hundreds. So, next time you look around, look at the mundane things. Look at the things that you take for granted. Look at the things that you don't realize you take for granted, would be a better way of putting that. Because how can you tell when you're taking something for granted? You're taking it for granted. You don't know. And that's the first step on the path to magic. Question yourself and everything around you. Because everything around you is somehow a part of you. You just need to figure out how. Blessed be, Rising Angel signing off.